So agenda for today is like we'll walk through first what is actually closed loop and why it is important. Then we'll talk about there are a couple of types of closed loop feedback, which is one is inner loop and what is the process about it, some examples. Then what is outer loop, what's the process about it, and then some industry use cases. And also we received a question about ROI of CX, so I'll cover that part as well during the end of the session. And then in the end, if you have Q&A, that's okay, but we'll have the Q&A session in the middle of the session itself. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. The more questions you have, more helpful it will be for other people in the audience as well. So let's begin. So we'll begin with a very short poll because it's related to closed loop, and I just want to know how many people are actually doing closed loop. Are they proactively closing loop with everyone or with some customers, or maybe the decisions are taken on an aggravated level on a regular basis, or maybe it's just ad hoc. So Lala, please could you launch the poll and let's see here out what people feel today, what's happening there.
Right, yeah. I think we're getting the answers. They're coming along.
Okay, so we'll keep it for another, I think, 10 to 15
10
seconds.
to 15 seconds, yeah.
Okay, I think uh,
Alrighty, I think I can go ahead and end the poll.
yeah, and we can share the results as well.
Right. So I do see that, most of the responses that I have got over here is for the second and the third option. So I see that 29% are closing the loop with dissatisfied customers. There are 18% who are making regular decisions. There are 35% who are proactively closing the loop. And, there are people who are, doing it on an ad hoc basis or not really taking any actions.
So there are very few people who are not taking actions, which is good. Some of them are ad hoc, some of them are regular, and some of them have already are following with every dissatisfied customer. So good to see that. Even though we would need this number from 35% to go up to 60 to 70% one day, but that's just a progress. Okay, so I'll end that, and now we'll begin the session. So we did our research as well, and we are continuously doing. And I'm sending some surveys to some of our people who have joined as well. So in our research till now, with we have done covered around 200 CX professionals. So what we have got that only 38% of the people are closing the loop with dissatisfied customers at the moment, and 59% treat NPS CSAT just as KPIs but do nothing on the feedback. So this webinar is actually about that how we should close the loop and why it is important. Because if we are treating NPS CSAT just as KPIs, it doesn't make sense to just measure feedback and do nothing about it. So there is a good impact of closed loop on key KPIs. This is also something that came from the research that 8.3% customers churn every year if you don't close the loop when they share negative feedback. It is relevant in both B2B and B2C. And also we have seen that NPS score increases by up to 6 points if you close the loop within 48 hours. So speed and timing is also very important when it comes to closed loop. I understand in B2B it takes a little bit more time because surveys are done on a relationship level. But in B2C, it's something smaller issues that can be solved within 48 hours. So we'll talk about some SLAs as well that most of the companies keep who effectively do close the loop. What we have also figured out that closing the loop with dissatisfied customer has a much greater impact on loyalty and advocacy. It's more than 3x. So if there is someone who's unhappy, you actually close the loop with them, you have a chance of getting their loyalty up 3x. So I've seen some examples in within SurveySensum itself. So someone uses us, they give us a feedback, they want us to put that as a product feature in a roadmap or something like this. We did it for like after 2 3 months we figured out, we gave that issue, fixed that issue, and put a new feature in the roadmap within 2 3 months. So this is something that we have done. the product for a customer. Yes, you need to do this on a regular basis. It's not as an issue, you resolve them, they are happy, and they keep consistently do it. So one is listen, analyze, act, and that all things makes you grow. So it's not just about listening and analyzing, it's about acting as well. So acting is what is called closing the loop. So listen, in the listen, you will say measure customer feedback at different touch points in the journey or different transactions, covering the entire customer journey if you can. Then analyzing, identify what are the three W's, I call it. What is going well or not, where it is going well or not, and then why it's going well or not. So what will the CSAT average NPS questions will give you what is going well or not. Then where it is going well or not will be helpful if you segment your data as well. When you're sending the survey, you have segmentation like, okay, city, region, if we are talking about B2C, or the segmentation about a platinum customer, a gold customer, or things like this. And why? Mostly you'll get this from the text feedback. Why it's not going well? What is the deep dive things of it? Then once you understand and analyze all the three W's, and then you take actions on it. That part of taking action is called closing the loop. So then another thing I would say, one is taking action on feedback and the other is communicating the outcomes. So I talk with a few of my customers who actually do close the loop very often, but very few of them actually communicated back to the customer that this has been done. For example, a retail company fixes the customer mention a couple of issues like, okay, I'm not able to get the product quality which I see on the website, it's not similar. Company does something on it, takes 2-3 months. Now a person doesn't even know that whether that issue is fixed. So specifically in B2C, you have to make sure that you do a newsletter, you do a WhatsApp, if you, or an email newsletter or something like this, to tell them this is what was going wrong and this is what we did. If you do that, then only they'll know that you actually acted on my feedback. Otherwise, if they're not buying from you again and they don't even know you fixed it, they are never going to buy from you again. So make sure closing the loop is also about communicating. Then why it's important to close the loop? The first thing is it shows the customers that you care. So if a customer raises an issue, you fix them. That what kind of subconscious they're taking is that this brand listens to us. They care. Second thing, it helps in fixing minor and major hindrance both in the customer journey. So minor issues can be about that the refund is not getting processed on time, and the major issues can be what kind of pricing and or subscription offering the customer is looking for. It can be many others as well. So fixing minor and major issues in the customer journey will help you reduce your support costs because there will be less calls. Then also, if you close the loop, you'll see this. It motivates customers to respond to your surveys or feedback. Everyone I work with always says that we are struggling with response rate. Some of them don't, who are actually effectively closing the loop, but the people who don't, you'll see then the response rate is also very low. Then, of course, it saves churn. Then also, if you are closing the loop, the customers are willing to tell it to other people as well, in some kind of conversation they might be having with their peers, that okay, this is a good company, I raise a support case, I give a negative feedback, they definitely work on it and they let me know what's it about. So many few companies do that, so that is where it helps in positive word of mouth. And once again I'll say, because solving a problem of a dissatisfied customer makes them stay 3x more times, and it is more than even the person who never faced a problem. They might leave you, but the person who faced the problem and you fixed it for them, most of the time they'll stay with you. Then what are the consequences of not doing it? Lower survey response rates for sure, higher support costs, because if you're not closing the loop, they're calling you on support, they are calling you, they're writing you bad things about social media. You're also spending more time on support agents, you're also spending time on support chats, and you're also spending time on social media. Then bad word of mouth if they mention anything about on social media or even with their peers, and higher churn rate, which definitely leads to loss in revenue. One other thing that we research working with our customers, that if there is 16s effort required to bring a new customer to same level as an existing customer. So if you already won a customer, just help them so that they stay with you. The other thing is, this I think stat is taken from the internet, and everyone knows that most negative word of mouth by a disparate customer whose feedback has not been heard, they actually tell it to at least 5 people. If on social media and it goes viral, it can be to 100, 200, 300 people as well. So before we begin to close loop, types of closed loop, there's one other thing that I would like to ask you, because this part is very important when you close the loop, that you have these transactional data, you have revenue and churn numbers. Everyone asks about how I prove CX ROI, but do you have, as a CX person, this data available with you? In only that case you are able to uh, show anyone that what is the ROI. But if you don't have these things, it's very difficult to show. So I want to ask you today, as a CX person, whoever is on the session today, answer me that what kind of data that you is ready available in your organization for the CX team.
I see that the answers are coming in. We will give 5 to 10 more seconds for everybody to give their answers, and then we can share the results. All right, I'll go ahead and end the poll now. I hope everybody has given their answers. Right.
Okay, so I'll take this up, Lala.
Yep.
See what I see, that people have customer transactional data, 62% of them, which is good. They also have revenue data. 43% of them have churn numbers, which is low. The most important part I see, that people do not have customer segmentation on ideal customer profile. Now, why this is important for closing the loop? Because you don't always have full resources. You don't have always have full resources to work on everything, right? So if you're short on resources, maybe you're working with some dissatisfied customers. Now, if you do not have the customer segmentation profiling, how would you know which segment to focus on first? Because the more priority segment is one of those who gives you the most revenue, for example, right? High priority customers. So if you do not have the customer segmentation, it would be difficult for you to first of all prove ROI and then select the customers who you should reach out to. So it's one of the things that I feel is still missing and should be worked upon as we are continue to go forward. As a CX person, you should question your marketing team in getting these details for you.
Tanuj, we do have a few questions. I'll
Sure.
go ahead and ask those. So there's a question from Devi, that sometimes when we do closed loops, but the customer isn't satisfied with our answer, uh, they uh, they answer okay, but I will not buy the product, although they appreciate our feedback. Should we give a special compliment to that kind of customer?
Okay,
That's
so
the question.
yeah, for sure. So for sure, this can happen. I'll give you an example. When we launched SurveySensum 2017, we were small at that time. We had some issues. We fixed them. We closed the loop, but still, customer was not willing to buy because maybe they were looking for something else at that time. They wanted more. Our product was smaller. 4 years later, in 2021, that customer came back. So we left an impression. So the compliment talk you are talking about, you have fixed a thing, you are leaving an impression. You don't know whether that customer can come back again, because what they see at in 2017 you were fixing that issue. In 2021, I'm sure that you are fixing many other issues and the product would be better. So after 4 years we won that customer again because we did close loop with them, we left a good impression. So not some things will give you a long term benefit. So please continue to do that. So please continue to do that. Any other question, Ella?
Yes, we actually have two more questions. We have a question from Ijlas Damar. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing the question. I mean, if I'm pronouncing the names wrong. So the question is how to react to the customer's feedback that we can't execute instantly. For example, customers wanted for the new branches of our brand in their city.
Honestly, so for example, it's a very good question. It happens with us a lot as well, that you have a new product feature request which is maybe not asked by many customers. So everything should be answered honestly. For example, the way you can answer, there are not many customers who have requested for it. For example, again, in our case, if we have to build something in the product, we look for at least 5 people asking for it, or it should be a part of our product vision, for example. But if that is something not there currently, we answer honestly that this is something we cannot do. Maybe this something we could fix for you, but this is something we cannot fix unless there is a number of X number of customers who are asking for it, because that is how an internal team works. So, as honest as you can be, Ichlas, is how you should answer them. If you're honest, they'll be okay. Don't lie to them that I'm going to get that branch done in 6 months. Just be honest.
Right. Thanks for that, Tanuj. So we have another question from Rainer Emmanuel. And the question is, what is the right timing for placing customer feedback and what does the give and take activity look like? Is it via email or any other channels?
Okay, so channel depends on the country you are in. Let's suppose you're using marketing, and in marketing, you see that when you send emails, only 10% open up, 10% people open. Then you don't have to use email as a channel. Now, let's suppose you are in Indonesia, India, or a European country where the WhatsApp usage is very high. So use WhatsApp as a channel to send a survey. And now, if you're talking about right timing for placing customer feedback, should be about after a critical journey that happens. For example, if you're working in an automotive sector, I don't know your sector, Rainer, sorry, so I cannot answer that. In automotive sector, the first place that you can take a survey is when the person comes for a test drive. Second, once they are done with sales. Third, once they visit the after service. Or fourth, maybe when they call the contact center. So most critical touch points in the journey are the ones where you should definitely take feedback. Okay, so Lana will begin and move to the next slides. And
Absolutely.
same way, once we'll stop for a poll, you can just ask these questions. So then we are talking about types of closed loop. So there are two types of closed loop. One of the questions which was asked by Chilas was mostly talking about outer closed loop. We'll talk about that. So in inner loop is after you have received the feedback, maybe the call center agent or concerned department are able to resolve the customer issues by themselves. For example, someone calls in a retail company that I have a problem with. I'm not getting the refund because I ordered something online. I did not like it. I placed it back, but I've not received a refund. This is something an individual just talking to a person in the finance team can get it fixed, get the refund done. So this is called inner closed loop, when you can solve things on your own or very quickly. You don't need a bigger audience to get it fixed. And there can be two things in here. One is non-critical, one is critical. There are some things that can be critical, you should definitely act on. And there are some things which are non-critical, it's non-critical, then you can avoid them as well. Totally depends on how many resources you have. Then outer loop is like someone where the customers requires things, structural changes. So Itlas asked a question about the customer wants to open a new branch, right? Now, sometimes it's possible to open that new branch because many customers are asking, sometimes it's not. But who is going to make that decision? There should be a bigger audience, a decision makers, many decision makers will make a decision that okay, we should open a branch there. So solving those things which require many decision makers getting involved and also some structural or new changes is called outer closed loop. So both of the stuff is very important for an effective CX program. It cannot be just one. In a very shorter diagram, this is what you can understand. You listen to the feedback, you learn what's wrong, you act on it. Done by an individual is called in a closed loop. Then outer, you listen from not just in a closed loop but from surveys, from market research surveys, from customer support contact volume from employees. You learn, then you take bigger decisions, you act on it after talking to your structural team and decision makers. That is called outer closed loop. So first, we'll cover the inner closed loop part. Please pay heavy attention on this one because this explains what should be the process of inner closed loop. So everyone knows what inner closed loop is now. Someone gives a negative feedback, you reach out to them, you solve their problem. If that can be solved within by an individual, is just in a closed loop. So I'll not go to the definitions again, but I'll talk you through a complete process that a company like an automotive, a retail, or a BFSI sector can do. I'm talking about these right now because these are very automotive, retail, and BFSI sector is the one where I have a lot of customers. So I have examples of how to close the loop with them. So that's why. So now, um, in all these sectors, there's one common thing. There are physical branches. There are managers in those branches, dealership stores. There are area managers. There are regional managers, national level managers, and country level managers as well. So that's why I take this as an example. So before you send a customer survey, you need to make sure your contact list is very comprehensive, or your customer database. So you should know that customer A went to this particular store slash dealer, which city that belongs to, which region that belongs to. Because when you send the feedback and when the responses come back in, you can easily analyze that what is the score by a particular store, by a particular region, by a particular city, for example. So it's important that you don't miss out on this. Don't just use name, email, phone number. Make sure you have that in your list. Second thing, why this also helps, as soon as someone gives a negative feedback, those agents or store managers or dealer managers should receive a real time ticket or alert that something went wrong, so that they can resolve it on their own. Because as a CX person, if you're managing it and you have 40 dealers or 100 dealers or 100 stores, you cannot close loop with everyone on your own. You need to make sure those dealerships, agents, managers are also involved. And once they get involved, they start working on it in a better way. So some companies directly give access to store and dealer managers for these negative tickets, and some do it for area managers. Area managers control these closed loop. Then one of the most important part, because speed matters here. So set up an SLA of at least minimum 48 hours, 24 hours is the best. That after you receive a negative feedback, someone is going to reach out and try to resolve their problem. And if they do not, then escalate it to higher authorities. Maybe if it's an area store manager, they did not resolve an issue, automatically after 2 days, send it to an area manager who can resolve that issue there. Then take action. Once you have taken that action on the feedback, whatever they told, then communicate it back to the customers that, hello customer, this is done, are you happy now? One of the most important thing is communicating. Then also track progress, that how many, now let's suppose you started doing it and your dealers and store managers, branch managers are fixing those problems. Then track on a monthly basis at least that how many tickets or alerts like this were open, how many are closed, how many are pending, so that you get an idea that who is willingly doing it and who is not willingly doing it, so you can train them more. And then also measure the impact on NPS score after 3 to 6 months, that what's going on when we have started this process. And also see what are the key categories over time. Maybe there was some particular issue that was coming again and again. Now after doing all this stuff, has that reduced? If not, take it to outer closed loop. So one thing that I would like to show you, in SurveySensum platform itself. So what we did for most of the customers, because I'm talking about this retail example again. So let's suppose if you have a survey that you are running, and you are a branch survey you are running, you can see everything in the dashboards itself, and then you can divide these dashboards into a regional level, a cluster level, a branch level, so that everyone sees those dashboards, so that they know their score. And the other thing that you do, whatever platform you use, you make sure you have dashboard at that hierarchy level, and also you have tickets getting received. So whenever someone receives a negative feedback, this is how it gets assigned to a branch manager. So the branch manager can log in, They can view what is the response of the customer, what is the info of the customer, for example. And then once they call the customer, fix the problem, they can put the notes. I have initiated their refund, for example. Close the ticket and add the note. So this is something that you need to make sure is there in whatever survey platform that you use. Because if you have these notes, you are aware that okay, did someone worked on it and whether these issues are closed or not. So it's something I would want to share. Then okay, because we also have a feedback platform that can do those dashboards, that can do those tickets and all. I just wanted to understand from you, is there anyone who's actively looking out for a solution, also want to close the loop? If you are, just answer that poll and I'll reach out to you personally, or Lala will reach out just to help you out if it's a need. If it's not a need, just say no. If you're already our customer, just say no. So we'll let this poll for like 5-10 seconds.
Yep, we do have the answers coming in.
Okay. And Lala, if we have any questions, I'll stop for a bit. If we have any questions or in a close
Yes,
loop, I'm happy to take them.
we do have two questions. So once we get the answers, we'll go ahead with that.
Okay.
All right, I think we do have the answers, and I'll just end the poll and we can go ahead with the questions that we have.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I do see from Ines, he has shared his views that in B2B we contact as well as passers and promoters for their feedback, but only those who are willing to be contacted,
Correct.
right?
Okay. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
next, we have a question from Alvi Maulana, who has mentioned that after we close the loop, can we resurvey the customer right on the spot?
Yes, you can resurvey them, and you can also track what was the response before closed loop and what was the response after closed loop. So you can do that. So one thing what I think Ines mentioned, we contact as well as passive and promoters for the feedback, but only those who are willing to be contacted. You are right, Ines. So it also depends on how many customers you have. If you have a lot of customers and you would want to take the permission or yes or a no, because once you are doing that in a survey question, Ines, some people might say no. And you also ask the question that how about some people who are not willing to help? So that is where a relationship manager or an account manager comes in, or a customer success manager, specifically in B2B. You have those people who are talking to them on a daily basis and they have relationships. Maybe they do not have a relationship with the person who's sending a survey. As you are a CX person, I don't know how many customers you are in directly touch with, but for sure your customer success person will be, or your account manager will be. So you take the help from those people. If you know a person has given a negative feedback, you want to improve on them, take help of those account managers and ask them, can you arrange a call with them? It happens with us a lot as well because we are B2B and we have a lot of customers. And for example, me, I cannot reach out to everyone. So I ask my account team to help because they have a very good relationship. So I hope that answers your previous question as well that you want asked in before joining the webinar. Okay. So if you have any more questions, please go ahead before I move to the outer closed loop. If no, I'll continue. So, sorry, before even after closed loop, there are a couple of things I want to share. So, who should be responsible for closing the loop? So, it totally depends on the industry. So, if this is a retail automotive, like we were discussing, a store, a dealer manager, an area manager should be responsible for doing it. That would be the best way. Unless there is some issue that can be handled by a specific team, maybe it's related to a parts or something which maybe the area manager is owning it, but parts team is completely different in automotive. So then it goes to them, but mostly it should be handled by these people. Now, if you're talking about B2B, which like Ines already discussed, so head of customer success, head of account management, not just their account manager, even the heads of them, which they are familiar with, maybe in their QBRs, they're familiar with them, or maybe even senior director or bigger people. The the people they work with directly, maybe they will not share directly if it's something about that account manager itself, but to the head of the person they might, or the director, they might. And also it brings a little bit more respect for that customer, that even the head or director level person is asking me to close the loop. So I'll give you an example. This is specifically for B2B now. So we have one of the customers, another financial firm. They have cash business. They transfer cash from one ATM to the next. So now they have customers who are paying them more than $1 million in business. So we created this closed loop strategy with them, that after the relationship survey, 15 days after the relationship survey, they'll reach out to at least top 30 of the customers who have given a negative feedback because they were short on resources. But the head of marketing will be reaching out to them. They did one step extra, so they reached out to some of the top people, went offline, not just an online meeting, went offline and meet with them. Now a CMO level person is going to meet a VP level person. Now that VP level person first of all says, this is respect, that a CMO level person is coming here to meet me. Then what they found, which they would never found in a survey, that in the last 3 years, some of the customers said, last 2 3 years we have been working with you, but apart from this timing of closing the loop, there was never a person who met with us face to face. Now this is something which will never come in a survey. No one will mention in the survey that I'm looking to meet people face to face and understand what is the vision of the company. But on during those face to face meetings, they mentioned that. Now this is actual proper closing the loop. Once you do this, and Ines, this might help you, if it is possible, if you do this for at least the top accounts who are paying you a lot, you will see what kind of impact it will make. Then the other thing, if we are doing service within a call center, then the team lead or manager of the agents can take the survey, close loop, for example, if the survey itself is about something wrong with the agent who handled it. If it is not, they should pass it on to different teams. So I remember I used to work in Cisco, in a Cisco call center in 2012. And whenever I received any kind of feedback, be it positive, be it negative, there was an instant alert that came to me and also my manager. And if it was a negative one, my manager would always reach out to them and also guide me on, okay, what how you should handle these kind of situations in the next time. Then, if it is a tech, an app, you have a product app, maybe you are a banking company, a non financial, maybe an automotive, whoever it is, if you have a product kind of a tech app, if something goes wrong with that, the product manager or product support team should be the ones who should close the loop. Because if it is B2C, you will never have a customer success manager. Now, which customers to close the loop with? Of course, the highest priority would be you start with detractors first place to start. But if you cannot, then you go to high CLV, key customer segments. If you have customer segmentation available, this is much easier to do. If you're in B2B, this is much easier to do. But if you do not have customer segmentation available, it's very difficult to do. One of the reasons why it's key for CX team to ask the marketing people to give them customer segmentation, or if it is not there, run a survey to get customer profiling. Then the second priority would be the passives, easier to convert them into promoters. Very easy to convert, I would say. Detractors are mostly unhappy. Then only to customer facing specific issues if you are short on resources, because it can happen and it will happen that you are not able to close the loop with everyone. So then pick up some specific issues which are constantly troubling the customers and start solving them first. And then inform the customers that, okay, this is what we have been working on now. And the next item that we might pick from the list is this. Just letting them know transparently. Then the last thing is, which I think Ines mentioned, that you work with promoters as well. So promoters, if you close the loop with them, B2B, it's easy to do as well, because you will get the referrals, you'll get testimonials, and you'll get reviews on good sites. From promoters, you can easily do this. But if you are a B2C and you want to close the loop with promoters and you cannot call all of them or follow up or email all of them, at least do some kind of automation. ask them for a review, give them a voucher of your company, maybe a service voucher, maybe in retail a product voucher or something like this, which they can use, and also give you a review on the sites where other customers are looking at, potential customers. Then I'll give you an example. Another one of our customers, they have a 17% CX slash support slash tech team, I would say, and they're a media company. So they close the loop with, how do they close the loop with more than 10 million plus customers that they have? Maybe a million of them are active every month as well. It's a media company, so they have newspapers. So they wanted to boost NPS and close the feedback in real time, but resources, like I mentioned, were very short. So they are running NPS on the website with a text box comment and receive around 10K responses every month. So what we did for them, so like I was telling before, your feedback software should not just have closed loop and dashboarding. It should now at least have text and sentiment analysis to do open end responses. So what we did with them, we trained our machine algorithm to on 100 and 200 comments and created some categories, something like this. Then we identified from the responses what are the key categories which where the things are getting much deeper, and company knows that support calls are also a lot of them. So when we understood the process in detail and created a short term and long term plan, and now we visit every quarterly that what needs to be fixed. So I'll, in this example, I'll show you something. So what happened, we figured out after categorizing some comments, and the machine then started giving categories to every comment there is. We figured out that there was a sign in and password category that was compromising of around 10% comments and with an NPS score of minus 67.1. People were frustrated about why they had to constantly log in the system. So they had some trouble with constant login issues. And there were other things as well. But this is something with one of the bad and a negative feedback. So they wanted to take this up further. So what was the action taken? The first thing that we set up, that whenever there is something related to sign in or password mentioned in a NPS comment that the customer leaves, an instant notification slash ticket goes to their support team. Now, this support team actually calls the person, and if they feel that the problem can be solved quickly, they'll do it, or they will be identifying the root cause as well, that why it is causing it again and again. Once they figured out the things which were causing it again and again, we and the support team worked with the product team to figure out, okay, this is the possible issue. Let us know how much time it might take to fix them. They did fix it. It took 2 months to fix it. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, but after those 2 months, 90% of the issues were resolved and resulted in an 8-point increase in NPS within 3 months, because the sign in issue doesn't come up anymore. So they were short on resources. They picked one thing. Now the other thing that they have picked is account and billing. So that is how, if you are short on resources, you can pick smaller stuff first using text and sentiment analysis and then get it rolling. I hope whatever platform you use have this feature available. We have. Now, in every 3 months, they follow the same process, identify one issue and get that fixed. So slowly and slowly their NPS increasing, even though they would want to do this on a much higher pace, but they do not have resources. So that is how they do it. So now, um, now we will move switch to outer closed loop. And in outer closed loop, one thing is important, that there should be cross-functional alignment. There should not just be ad hoc meeting, there should be weekly meetings as well, and then there should be a well planned CX roadmap if you're like very very mature as a CX company. But whatever it is today, I would want you to answer this question honestly, that how does your organization implement process level changes based on the customer feedback, not just the inner closed loop which you can fix easily, the things which will take time, like the sign in issue I was talking about, which took 3 months to fix. So how do you do it? So, Laila, please open up the poll and let's see some responses.
Right. We do see the responses coming in, and I'll give it a few more seconds before we can close it.
Yeah, I think let's give us another 10 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, I think we can close it now.
All right. Share the results.
Okay, so very few people mentioned that there's no cross-functional alignment, which is good. So that means the people that we are talking with, already there is CX maturity in these organizations. Some people say there are ad hoc meetings, and some people there are 56% people say there are regular workshops, which is great. And the fourth, which is the best part, 22% people even say that there is a well-planned CX roadmap for issues identified. Wow. This is one of the best answers I've ever received in a poll. So this audience today is like really, really matured. Thanks a lot, everyone. So, Leila, let's take up some questions before we move to our
Yes,
close loop.
we do have two questions. First, we have it from Ines. He has mentioned that yes, good suggestion indeed. Our other struggle we have is how to increase the response rate. In the B2B, response rate is still low.
Okay. So now, Ines, this you have to make sure in B2B, have to make sure that your account team slash customer success team is pushing the customers to respond. Otherwise, they will not respond. Normally, what I see in B2B, 15 to 20% response rate when we send at least two reminders to them. One survey email and then two reminders. Now, if you want to increase it even further, make sure you held account team responsible. You are taking some help from the directors and all that, which takes care of the account team, making them responsible that are asking the customer to give a response. Very, very important, and otherwise you'll never receive it. I have seen companies who have received up to 60% responses, 70%, and that is always when the account team is pushing. Otherwise, you'll not get a better response rate.
Right. We do have another question. Why prioritize detractors over passives or promoters and closing the loop?
Because we, like we mentioned, the people who are detractors, they are unhappy. They have an issue which they are telling you. Not always passives and promoters are telling you issues. So those issues can be fixed, and you're fixing something in the journey, and next time they'll become promoters or passives because those issues are fixed. That's why prioritize detractors. But if you have a lot of resources, I would always want you to reach out to everyone. Okay. Thanks, Vikram. Okay, so let's continue. Any other questions? I think Vidya, you wanted to ask something. If you are, you can ask in the Q&A. If you're not able to open the Q&A, your hand is raised actually, so we're thinking maybe you have a question. Vidya, if you want to talk, please go ahead. I have allowed you to talk. If not, I'll continue. Okay, by mistake maybe. Okay, Lana, you take care of it if the question comes in. Okay.
Absolutely.
So now, what is outer loop? A smaller definition I'll still give. So customers sometimes will definitely point out issues that cannot be solved by customer-facing teams, and these are issues created which involve a lot of cross-organizational processes to be changed. In the previous example, account billing and subscriber price changes are something that came up, and it is getting solved today. But it took a lot of time, 4 to 6 months, to get it solved. So this is where closed loop comes in, when the changes are more structural level. And I think Ikilas mentioned about the branch thing, opening up a new branch. This is kind of like an outer loop, where things are not under an individual's control. It's a bigger decision, and companies will have to see the impact what it is going to make on not just customers but also on the business as well. Who do you need for this? For sure, you cannot do any changes if you do not have people with authority slash decision makers with you. Cross functional alignment is also very important, but if these are top people who are willing to put in that effort into CX as well, these are the kind of people you'll need. So what is the process about? So now this is not just from customer feedback. So you receive something from customer feedback, you'll receive something from those closed loop calls you're making. Then you, once you listen to the frontline employees, they will also mention you something. Then you are doing market insights, like NPS benchmarking or CSAT benchmarking kind of surveys, and you figure out that there are some kind of things which are already solved by a competitor of yours. Then also you have operational data like support call volumes on a particular issue. So once you have all those 4 or 5 things, is when you make a decision and go to your teams for recommendation. If you're like recommending them, okay, what needs to be done. So make sure that the closed loop, the outer closed loop, is not just coming from the survey. Otherwise, the leaders, the decision makers will ignore you. You have to show them other data as well. Then once you have identified, then as a part of the CX team, identify issues and opportunities, then rank them in order of priority. So talk to internal teams and decide, okay, if we fix this issue, how much impact it is going to make on customers, what is the effort that it will take, what will be the business impact, because everyone talks about revenue churn in terms of decision makers, everyone has those responsibilities. And then also the timelines it's going to take to give you those results. For example, in the previous use case, we talked about NPS took 3 months to increase to 8 points. So, kind of like these timelines that this impact will take 6 months to show, 9 months to show, or a long term impact is also very important. Then you recommend a team that can work on fixing these. This is a job of a CX person. Then what that recommended team does, they talk to some more customers if they need to. They talk to other employees as well, and they start planning actions. That okay, we have understood the root cause of this issue. Now we can plan what kind of things we can do, and they can also show in more detail that okay, what will be the effort it will take and what will be the business impact. Once that is done, senior executives will just help you prioritize after looking at all the things like effort, business impact, timelines. They'll help you prioritize, and then they'll ask the team, okay, start developing solutions on this. Once those solutions are developed, just let the customer know and the employees know that we have planned this change because on the feedback that we have received from you, and this is what we are going to do or not. This will take 2 to 3 months to get done, and once it is done 3 months later, inform them just once again that we picked this problem you told us 3 months ago, this has been fixed. Send a marketing message, send a newsletter, send a WhatsApp newsletters, SMS, whatever channel your companies use. Make sure you communicate it to the customers at the end that it's done, because this processes take time, and if you communicate it makes an impact to them. And I don't know if I asked this in the poll, but most of the people I work with, very few of them I've seen doing this, very honestly. Okay, so I'll give an example. So now of an outer closed loop, I'll give two examples. One, this is the first one. So we work with an non-banking financial company. They provide loan applications. They provide loan, actually personal loans. So we do a drop-off survey with them. Drop-off means when the person started their journey of taking the loan but did not actually complete it. They dropped off. They filled the form and they dropped off. So what we figured out in the NBFC that survey that we did with them, we found different issues. Some people mentioned that there's no ease of documentation. The sales team who was selling it, they do not know things, and there were other issues. But there was one particular issue that nobody even believed there was. So some of the people mentioned, some of the customers, potential customers, that there's no company app to take a loan on their own, and which was actually not the case. Actually, they were just not aware that there is an app. And also, once we did those inner loop close calls, it confirmed that the sales team, the sales slash support team who was handling or picking those calls when they were raising those issues, they were not telling customers about that there is a company app. And you know why? Because they were just incentivized based on when a call gets received and they give the loan over a call, but they were not incentivized when the person asks for an app and when the person will purchase or take the loan on the app itself. So now it's, I won't say this is a problem from the sales team. They see that if they have to meet their target, they have to take their incentives, they have to sell them over a call. So it was a company level process that why people were not incentivized if uh, even if the customer takes the loan on an app. after calling the sales team. So this process required some structural changes. One was marketing team had to drive awareness of the app. Also, the sales team need to be incentivized if in case the customer calls them and asks if there is an app and they takes the loan. Even though very less incentives is given on them, at least now they don't hide. So one of the examples of how closed loop can involve many people and structural changes. And which one thing which 56% of the people already agreed, that most important part of closing loop is those weekly, monthly, regularly discussions with the decision makers. Without it, nothing happens. Then there was another question that came in, that how we can link CX initiatives to business KPI. A very good question. And closing the loop is one part of it, surely a heavy part of it. So how we prove the ROI? So I'll give you another example. So there's a company which sells mutual funds. They work with us and they do relationship NPS surveys every quarter. So now most of their customers, they use their app to run transactions or buy mutual funds. Now customer are divided into segments. Like they have platinum, gold, and silver. Platinum spends the most, gold at the second level, silver at the third level. Now in the survey, many of the customers requested that we need a relationship manager who can guide them on what kind of funds we should purchase. Because believe me, if everyone is sitting on the call, maybe 50%, 40% people know how to invest in a mutual fund or a stock, but 50, 60% are not aware, because not everyone has that financial education. So they had the money to spend, but they were looking for someone to guide them. Now there was no relationship manager till now because everyone was buying through the app. Now what happens, a small campaign was launched after listening to this feedback, that a relationship manager will reach out to top customers, the platinum customers, just to guide them what kind of funds that you can buy. Now results, one of the thing is very, it was surprising for even us when we heard it from the client. On the second week of that campaign, one customer spent 125K USD on funds after just speaking with that relationship manager for 2 days. And that ROI of the campaign, they ran it for 3 months, was around 8x. Now, this is how you show the ROI. If you do something and if it is making an impact, you just need to calculate this ROI figures as well by talking to the sales team. Just an example, nothing else. Now, the next action, now that campaign, which was a small campaign, now it has become a permanent campaign that every platinum customer is assigned a relationship manager. Now, their next move is, because they have shown the ROI, how we can convert gold segment to platinum users by assigning them RM as well. This is just a first, they'll do this as an experiment like they did with this. If it works well, then they'll have more users, they'll have more people spending. So that's how one of the examples of how you can link initiatives to business KPI. It can be totally different for you. We can speak on WhatsApp if you are a customer, or we can speak on LinkedIn if you just know me through LinkedIn. That how we can calculate it for what you're doing today. Okay, so I think that's what I wanted to share today. I'll take up more questions if we have any, and then we'll end the session.
Yeah, we actually do have two questions, one on the question answer section. It is from Ines, and he has mentioned that communication on improvements to be done only those who provided feedback or to all customers. What is your suggestion here?
All customers, always all, because it makes an impact that the other customers are also seeing that you are listening to feedback. Maybe they did not share any feedback with you, but you're still sending them the messages that we listened to this feedback that your whole customer base gave 3 months ago. We prioritized this item, we have fixed them. Now please continue to share more feedback with us so that we can fix new things. Now you will see even the people who did not respond to the feedback at that time and see that okay, this feedback has been worked upon. Maybe if I provide feedback, they'll listen to me as well. So that creates an impact among them, and then you see your response rate start increasing. And if once you do it regularly, every quarter you're sending a newsletter like that, you'll see how your response rate increases after a year. So do it with all, not just them. In B2B, maybe you do it with them. Or in B2B, sometimes like we do product webinars as well, and now we are planning to do it very soon, where we send product newsletters, now do product webinars as well, just telling all the customers that what are the new features we have launched. Okay. And
Right, we
I
have another
think one
question.
of the questions which Manoj, from Manoj, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take that question up. So, what about companies where product price is just few hundreds, unlike in mutual funds? Putting RM is an expensive, for sure, Manoj. So, this is something which was suitable for a mutual fund company, and also it came in the feedback. In your case, there could be something totally different. And but we need to figure out what's happening in the customer feedback for me to give you a suggestion. I'll not be able to give you a suggestion right away to prove the ROI unless I know in details what is happening and what's going on. And like we discussed on LinkedIn, we are due a conversation. So let's take that up in the conversation because this RM thing which I told you might not be relevant for you, but relevant for a company with a little bit high ticket item.